Hey guys, Terry Red here again, and this video is going to be all about DOFLinx effects and how to create your own configurations and effects for your favorite games or programs. You'll be doing this using my DOFLinx SUP Creator spreadsheet tool. I know it's a lot, but basically, so we are going to first things first, before you do anything, if you haven't watched this video, the one I'm showing right here, please watch this first before attempting this. I want you to understand what DOFLinx effects is, how it basically works, and how it works differently than normal DOF configs. So watch that first. Read the post that I'm posting on the DOFLinx forum. I'll have a link for all that below the video. And then come here if you want to make your own config files for doing some cool DOF effects with your favorite games using button pushes and startup events. So first things first. All right. A few things you want to do first before you start creating effects. One, you have to have DOFLinx up and running, installed, good on your system. This video assumes you understand how your cabinet or whatever cabinet you're using needs to be set up with DOFLinx and your hardware, lighting, and all that. You have to have all that ready to go. This is basically mainly about creating your individual effects for games using DOFLinx effects. So first thing you want to do is go to your DOFLinx INI file. So if you're not sure where that is, you know, DOFLinx typically should be installed in your direct output folder. This is on my pinball cabinet. And go to your DOFLinx INI file. And what you're going to be doing is you're going to be adding whatever game you need DOFLinx to use or to wake up to. You have to add that into the processes. Now, in this case, you know, I've been doing it with MAME. I've added a few games to MAME so that I could do some cool lighting effects and all that with it. So what you need to do is go into your INI file, and you need to look for the line for processes. I can't remember where exactly I have mine. It's been a while. Right here. Yep. So look for the line here, processes equals, and then you're going to need to add in whatever program you need to work with DOFLinx. So in this case, I use MAME Plus. So I added that in right here. Okay. And yes, you can even use a calculator, but I only use that for testing, guys. But if you want to add Pinball Arcade on there or other programs or, you know, Pinball Effects 3 to whatever manually, whatever you want, or maybe Zachariah Pinball or some other pinball games, you can use any of this with those kind of programs. It'll to do whatever you want with any button or key pushes. So add your program in here first. Okay. Then after that, you're gonna. I explained it in my last video, but I'll show you very quickly. In your front end, and this is my pinup popper setup. I would go to my emulator, which in this case will be MAME, and I will add the line in here to start DOFLinx message and tell it to use a SUP INI file and tell it where it's located at, and then it's going to use whatever field variable your front end will use. In this case, it's the game name. So whatever game I launch, that's what gets filled in here. All right. So that needs to be done. You'll be able to see that on my post all about this in the link below if you follow. If you go to my main post for DOFLinx effects. So front end needs to be set up. DOFLinx INI needs to have your program set up. And then you need to have a folder where your basically your game configurations are going to be. So your SUP INI file. So if you don't know what a SUP INI file is, a SUP INI file is a supplementary INI file. It's basically a text file with DOFLinx commands that can get added to DOFLinx on the fly before any game or program is launched. So if you want to have specific configurations only for a particular game used, you can add that to a SUP INI file instead of having it always used all the time. And that's what we want, because we don't want to have these configurations all the time. We want them specifically to each game. So what I did is I made a folder named MAME here, and I put my INI files in here. Now, most of these were just for test files. Most of them are just the same thing. So I'll show you my Afterburner 2 INI file that I used in the video demo that you should have watched. So if you click on this, this is all it is. It's a text file. A text file with a whole bunch of commands. Now, there's a lot of stuff on here, right? You know, you're gonna be like, what the hell is all this crap? So anything with a number or a pound symbol in front of it is just basically ignored. So if you don't want a command something to be a command, you want to just write comments or notes, then that's what you do. So that's what these lines are, the ones that are like with the pounds. So you can see here, I've got my DOFLinx commands, my FFROM. You know, the FFROM will initiate our DOF ROM with all of our effects and feedback. And in our case, we're using DOFLinx effects, which has everything we need all on there. If you want to initiate a PuP pack, then that's what you would use this for. If you want to do change how often DOFLinx will trigger when a key press is held down, because it basically acts like a keylogger. So if you hold down a button or a key, it'll keep repeating over and over again. So this controls how often DOFLinx will allow another trigger of the same thing when you're holding down a button, basically. That's something you have to play around. I've had 0, I've had 50, I've had 200. It depends on the game. It's going to be different depending on how you want to use it. Now, the key to ROM here is our command that we use to assign effects to a key or button. It's one continuous line. You can't have multiples of key to ROM in here. So it has to be one continuous line. And you have to have your key code, your trigger action for the button being held down, and then you have another trigger action for the button being let up. And you have to do that for every single one on this one continuous line. Look at this. Does this make any sense to you guys? It makes sense to me, but imagine going back and wanting to change something or update something. Like, that's just mumbo jumbo. That is just a pain in the butt. Try managing that when you want to do some really cool stuff. So that's what we're trying to avoid you guys having to do, okay? The key to PuP, that's if you want to do the same idea, but you're triggering pinup player videos instead, or sounds, or whatever else you want. Now, down here for startup events, that's basically if you want a certain effect to take place when the game is first loaded. So as you saw in my video demos, I would have like a particle or a star field going on, you know, just at first. And then as far as DOFLinx native commands, those are the normal, you know, DOFLinx DOF type commands where you can control normal standard cabinet toys. But the problem with those is they have to be configured to your specific setup. Whereas if you're using something from DOF config tool, then that will work on anybody's setup. So this particular line, I had to configure for my setup, and I used it only for the RGB undercap lighting. So when I pushed a button, it changed the light, you know. But so that's, as you can see here, that's what a typical SUP INI file will be using DOFLinx effects. Trying to do this yourself is a pain in the butt. So we don't want to do that. That's not what we're going to do. Now, as far as this down here, this is just extra info I put in there, so you can ignore that. So we're going to make one of these per game, but doing it this way is the hard way. Believe it or not, it actually is. So we're not going to do that. But that's where our INI files would go in the example I'm showing you, which is for MAME. All right? So what we're going to do is you're going to download my DOFLinx INI SUP Creator Spreadsheet, and it's going to be in whatever form. It could be Office format, Excel. I don't know for sure yet, but I'm going to make them available. I use it on my Google Drive. So this is the magic here. This is our DOFLinx INI Creator Spreadsheet. Now, you're going to be overwhelmed because it's going to have a ton of stuff on there. Don't freak out. Don't worry about it. I'm going to take you through. You only have a small portion of it that you have to actually deal with. The rest of it is all for reference or information if you want it. All right. So this first page, it's just lookups. It's just like references used. For the rest of the spreadsheet, don't touch it. Don't modify it. Don't do anything. You can use it for reference if you want for like your DOF and MX toys. And anything that's MX, by the way, is addressable LEDs. You can use it for your colors, your DOFLinx commands. These are the actual commands we're going to be using in our INI files, or the hex codes you need for Xbox or keyboard keys. And these are just drop-down menu references. So this one you can pretty much ignore because you're not going to be really using it. And do not mess around with it. It has to be left alone. So these first two tabs down here are actual effects. These are for your reference. You don't change anything in here. You're just going to use them to look up effects. So if you click on the first one, it's DOF. That's not addressable LEDs. That's everything else but addressable LEDs. These are the effects I've already pre-programmed for you guys. So that way you don't have to know how to do them. You just have to look up a trigger number and the color you want to use and you're good. So you click on here. All right. There's only a couple things you need to even look at here. You need to just look at the description of what you want. And then you need to look for what trigger number it's using. So if you do that, like let's say I wanted to have my shaker motor go off. I wanted to have a button make my shaker motor go off. I would scroll down and look for shaker motor. Here it is here. So then I would go over and the trigger is what I need. This is the trigger, E31. All right. That's all you need from this entire page. You don't need anything else. You just need to know what you want and what trigger it is. It's that simple, guys. Same thing with this page. It's a ton of information. There's hundreds of addressable LED effects all on this page. All you want to do is look for the effect you want. So for example, if you want a green explosion, right here, you would then just go across and find the trigger. Now, some of the, we'll be using that number in our actual INI file. Okay. Now, some of these, if you're going to look, there's tons of these, all right? Just look on the left side, look for the effect you want, and you're going to see a whole bunch underneath each section. That's because I have each of them in 8 colors. You see here, like we have white, red, green, blue, yellow, cyan, magenta, and orange here. So each effect is going to be in all of those. That's why there's so many of them, for almost all of them. So you just look for the effect you want, and then you go across and you find the color you want, and then the trigger is all you need. So that's it. That's all you need from these 2 sheets. Everything else is, don't worry about it. You know, sorry, that's all you need for these 2 tabs, I should say, not sheets. All right. Now here, I've got 2 examples for you guys to use as a reference. These are INI files, SUP INI files I created for Afterburner and Stargate. But you're going to be going here. This is our template, our main template that you use to start with. This is our SUP INI creator. Now, I know it looks like it's a lot, and it is at first. It's actually doing most of the work for you. Believe it or not, I know it's hard to believe, but it actually is. Once you've done one of these, then you can just use that in the future, change it a little bit, make another one. You can just duplicate it, and it gets much easier, guys. So, first things first. The only areas you're going to add and change any information on will be here, these guys here, between the red here of this section. This is if you want to do DOF and PuP player commands. Or if you want to do DOFLinx native commands, then the red down here. Those are the only sections you're adding any information on. That's it. Everything else is going to be doing auto generation and all that kind of thing. And when it's all done, and I'll take you through the process, and trust me, you have to follow everything I do, because if you miss one part of it, then you may miss some important pieces being compiled. So when it's all filled out and done, you've got all your commands done, then it's going to gather all of it up into one line for each command. Remember I showed you in Afterburner. See this? That's all one line. So instead of you trying to do that, which is a pain in the butt, it's gonna take every single multiple command of the same type of command and put it together onto one line for you down here. And then all you do is copy, and then you'll paste it into your INI file. It's really that simple. Like it's a lot of information. So I'll explain what all of this is. This here is just for reference. This is just telling you what the DOFLinx commands are and what their parameters are. You use this so that you'll know what you need to use down here. All right. And there's a couple lines here. Make sure you read them. They're very important. They have some information. Like any PuP command, the action, that would be the purple ones here. They would have to be 1. Like, for example, I think this one got screwed up. Look at that. It has to be 1 for it to work correctly. All right. So for here, I use E99 as a dummy trigger. So don't worry about that. So this section here, this thing here, these are just drop-down menus. These are more for reference than anything else. But as you'll see here, we have drop-down menus to make things easier for you. So if for whatever reason you erased it, or, for whatever reason, all you got to do is copy from here, just look up the one you need, and then paste it down into the row that you need it with. And that's it. And I got a few handy links here. DOF config tool, as I've shown you before. The DOF R3 wiki. Guess what? This is where everything you need to know for creating DOF commands is. Right here. It's all right here. And it could be a little frustrating to understand at first. So I've included that if you want more clarification on what's being done, because that's everything I'm creating here. Basically, all of this creates the DOF command over here. I've already done all that for you, but I put the links there just for you guys in case you needed it for whatever reason, just in case. So, and of course, I put a link to the DOFLinx forum, which is where you can find information and other things. I might include a link to the actual thread for doing this as well. So we got our sheet, and so if you take a look, all you're doing is filling in here. So this section here is whatever you want to put in. It's just a description of what you're doing. This section here is the actual DOFLinx command. So if you click, I've got drop-down menus already for that. Okay. This section here is going to be your key or button code. Now, again, you can use a drop-down menu. A perfect example. Look at that here. If I wanted to create a new line here, well, I don't have anything here, right? So I could just go right up here to key or button codes, copy, and then paste that. Paste that there. Oh, okay. I know it. And just paste, where are we here? There we go. Now, you do have to have a little bit of understanding of how Excel spreadsheets work, guys. So, bear with me. If you don't know anything about this stuff, you're going to have to figure it out. Sorry, but that's just the way it is. And as you can see, now I have that menu I can use. So these ones don't have drop-down menus. They're just actual values. If you're not sure, what to put for the action codes, that's up here in this line. All right. -1 will be a pulse. That means like that just pulse the action briefly. Or 0 would be turning it off. You want to turn whatever this action is off, or whatever this trigger is off, I should say. And then more than 1, like 20, 50, 100, that would be a duration of time. Like if you want your effect to happen for 10 seconds, 5 seconds, whatever you want to do. So for this section over here, this template, all you're doing is you're basically doing the rest of the parameters for the command. So look up here, our command, our parameters, right? So for key to PuP event, we have a key/button. Key/button is this here, key/button. And then same thing, our down trigger, our action, up trigger, our action, down trigger, down action, up trigger, up action. And that's filling that in. So if you're not sure, keep this sheet left alone and just duplicate it, and then you can use this for a reference. You can just copy this whole line and use that for another command if you want. That's the whole idea. I gave you an example of each one to use this reference if you're not sure. And what happens here is when you fill all the proper stuff in here, then the command, the parameters, not the whole command that are ready to use, get filled in over here. And then when you add in multiple ones, they're all going to get added on continuously. And then eventually your whole command gets put together down here. I know that seems a little confusing at first, but I'll take you through the process. And when we add in all of our commands, when you're done adding in commands and you want to actually put it into your INI file and try it out, then you need to copy these green cells here. All of them. You choose all of these green cells. You choose copy. And what we're going to do is we're going to paste that to all the cells underneath, right to the bottom green one. And we're going to paste only the formula. The reason why is because that's all we want. The formula is what adds all this stuff together. Okay? So that's all you got to do. I even describe what to do in these lines here. So everything you really need to know is on this page. It's just a lot to take in at first. So you would do the same for both of these. They're both exactly the same. Look at the examples. If you're not sure how to do it, use this as a reference. I'll show you, for example, Afterburner. You know what? I'll show you Stargate. I don't want to give you a heart attack. So with Stargate, you can see here, I put name Stargate. The DOFLinx effects ROM is what we're using. We're not using a PuP pack, and we're not using any delay. So these are our commands down here. You can see the start of commands are using this one here and only these fields here. You look up there so that you know what ones to use, right? Key to ROM, that's our button and key pushes to create effects. Same thing. You look up here for reference, and then you'll see exactly what needs to be entered in for all this. So what I did was, for example, when I inserted a coin, I have multiple commands for just that one button push. So what this sheet is doing is it's taking all of them and adding them. Well, it's taking every single one of these button pushes and putting them all to one single line for you. And then that way you can come back here and you can change up stuff if you want. And then that way it'll automatically arrange it all for you, because trust me, you're not going to know how this stuff works at first. You're going to want to test stuff and all that. So the idea is you can see how much is involved with that little bit of a demonstration I did, all the stuff I did here just to make that happen. So trust me, using this is a million times easier. So for coin inserted, I have like 4 different ones here. 4 different, sets of actions. So I chose what type of DOFLinx command I want. I chose the button or Xbox gamepad code. In this case, is Xbox code. The trigger I want to use. And remember, if you don't know what effect, this is the effect. This trigger, this is your effect. This is all you need for your effect. So you just, again, you look up either for normal DOF stuff over here, look up the trigger with the effect, or for your addressable LEDs, look up the effect over here, and then find out what the trigger is for the color you want. All right? So then that's going to be your down trigger. That means when you push the key down, this is what happens. Now, the action, again, it depends on what you want. 0 means you may turn off an effect that's already occurring. Like if you have an animation that's rolling nonstop, well, by pushing the coin button in, I've now stopped it by choosing that same effect in 0. And then when I release the button, the up trigger here, I'm going to do a new effect, or I'm going to turn off another effect. So this one is basically turning off the previous effects from the startup. This one in the next line here is going to do a new effect, and it's going to do another effect when I release the button. All right, so just look through here, see what they are. All right, now so I know this is a bit much, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the process of creating one. All right, so we're going to do a very, very, very simple one. All we're going to do is we're going to create one for Galaga. So here's what I'll do. Go to the SUP INI creator. So we're not going to use this one. We're going to duplicate it and then use it. So I'll duplicate it, rename it. Rename it to, what you're actually using. So in this case, I'll call it name Galaga. Okay. All right, so we'll go up here, name, Galaga. DOFLinx effects is what we're using for our effects ROM, and we don't need that. And we'll put this maybe at 50. All right, so that's filled out. You need to have those filled out. So now we're going to move on to here. Now I'm going to cheat a little bit because you don't need these these are just examples. You know, you can erase these, no problem. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat. I'm going to just go to Stargate, and I'm going to select all the startups and the coins. Okay, and the start button. All right, I'm just going to do a copy and paste so that way, you know, I can kind of cheat with that. So now, because I don't know how many I'm going to need for sure, I'm just going to insert a few to give myself some space here. So I'm going to go all the way in here, and I'm going to paste. Now I think I got them all. Start button, begin, beacon. Let's see if I got them all. I did. Good. All right. So look at that. We've already got our startup effects right off the bat. I just did a copy and paste from the ones I already had. So now, if you want to change an effect, all you do is change your trigger and change whatever action you want to do, and you change your trigger for releasing the key because it's already there for you. So we don't have to change any of these. They're good to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert, oops, here, let me do this here. I'm going to insert a few. Actually, you know what? We don't even need a few, but I'll just, yeah, you leave a space if you want. All right, so this is going to be just fire, you know, the fire button. So when you hit the fire button, it shoots. That's it. You know, that's all we're going to do. So this is our new command, fire button. So I'm going to choose key to ROM because we want our key to make a DOF effect. And I'm going to choose Xbox One A. Now, if you're not sure what to use, what these things even mean, go up here, code equals key button reference. You just look here, and everything you need is right here. So it tells you what the hex is on the left and what it actually is on the right. So got our key and button code. And then now I need an effect. So I'm going to go over to our MX effects, and I'm going to look for maybe like a laser blast or something. Let's see here. There we go. Yeah. So laser blasts, bottom to top. That's what I want. And then you have ones for the left or ones for the right side. Well, I want one for both. So let's do a red effect. So I want a red laser blast. So we got 188 and 189 for both sides. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to choose E188. And you know what? Let's try pulsing it. And then for the button release, I'll just choose E188 again, and I'll choose 0 to turn it off. All right. And then because we're using the same type of key to ROM, you can just copy this guy down here. All right. So that's it for our command. Now you'll notice nothing's filled out here. I'll explain why. And this is the very important part you have to follow. So I'm going to copy this whole line, the entire line, not just a section, the entire line. And I'm going to paste it. And all I'm going to do is change that. And that's it. Now I've got my left and right laser blasts ready to go. See, 188, 189 for your right effect and your left effect. Okay. And that's it. I already did a copy and paste of all the startup stuff, but you can change it to whatever you guys want. And then I did the fire button for the left and right side. So does it look like we're ready to go? Well, all the information's here. Is it good down here? It may look like it's good down here. It's not. And I'll explain why. See, these are not filled out. The reason why is we have to copy and paste the formula to all these cells after we're all done. The reason why is whenever I'm not an Excel expert, so this is probably the reason why. Whenever you add or remove entire lines, then it may mess up the formula process progressing through all here. So when you're done all your commands and you want to test, all we do is we select this guy up here, copy. We select all the cells underneath of that, right to the green line on the bottom. It even tells you here what to do. And what you're going to do is you're going to choose paste, special, formula only. That's very important. And watch what happens in those cells to this side here. Watch what happens when we do that. Boom. It automatically takes all these commands and adds them in here and then appends them to the rest of our commands. So now we're ready to go. So if you want to change, for example, these down here, you could, for example, have one. I'll remove these down here. Where are we here? Delete rows. Okay, so key to color toggle. That in this example, I'm just going to have my RGB undercab lighting. So I would type in my description here, choose what DOFLinx native command I want, read up on the DOFLinx guide if you need more information, and then what key I want to use. Now we're going to make it the same as our A button like we used up here because we want the fire button to match. So now I have to choose my RGB device that works for my particular setup. Now, if you're not sure about that, let's go on here. I'm going to go under my ports. And for my LED Wiz, not my MX LEDs, I have to figure out what port I'm using for. It's whatever you set up on your DOFLinx INI file for your undercab lighting. But for me, I'm just looking it up because I know it's on here. I just have to remember where exactly it's at. There we are. So for me, port 23. Okay. So in my case, it's going to be device 1, port 23. All right. That's a DOFLinx native command that will only work for my setup. That's why I had a completely separate section down here. All right. And again, you make sure that this code is correct. Just look up here to figure out what one of these guys you're going to need for down here. All right. And it's the same thing. So notice I removed all those lines. And this guy over here is like, what the frick's going on? So same thing as above. You just select the green ones at the top, copy, and then you highlight all the ones below to the green to the bottom, and you choose paste, formula, and boom, that's it. And there you go. So now, if we go down here, all of our commands that we added and created up here are ready to go in key to ROM, and the same thing with key to color toggle, and the same thing with our FF ROM that we added up here, right? That we need that, and our delay between key presses as well. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're ready to go. We've basically created everything we need for our INI file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to our template. I'm going to include some kind of template. There we are, a template INI. All right. So I'm going to just make a copy of that and paste. And yeah, the Galaga here, these are older ones, so I'm getting rid of those. All right, so now you have to use the right name for whatever the game name is in your front end. Remember that, like it has to match, right? So what we do is we bring this up. So you can see this is our INI file. It's all blank. There's nothing in there, right? So I'm just going to call this MAME. And for our game, I'll call it Galaga. This is for, you don't have to put this stuff in here, but it's just simple reference, makes it easier. So what we're going to do now is we're going to copy and paste. So I'll just do this. So all of our commands are ready to go down here. So the DOF ROM init, so that's going to be up here. You need that one in there. That tells us what DOF ROM to use for our effects. Key to ROM triggers. So that's going to be the big one that has all of our key and button commands. And then we'll paste that in there. Oh, and one thing, very important. I don't know if you can see it, but yeah, okay. The cursor is way over here and there's extra spaces. Whenever you paste it on, I'm not sure why it does that. Make sure you erase those. Extremely important because the command might not work. Same thing with this one, see? So every time you paste a command in, make sure you erase those extra spaces at the end. Very important. Now, key to PuP triggers, we're not using any. Our first startup, we do have that. That's our FFDOF. Again, see, first run, attract. So you will copy. And you will paste. And then that's it. That's it. That's all. Oh yeah, and erase. Erase that extra spaces at the end there. And that's it. That's all we have to do. Now, I know it seems like a lot at first because you don't know what all this stuff is, but once you've gone through it once, then you can just copy and paste what you've made and change it up. It's not as hard as it looks after you've gone through the process. So that's it. That's my INI file. It's ready to go. And now we just go to our cab and try it out. And that's it. So I know that's a lot of stuff for you guys to take in. It's quite a bit. But again, if you guys make some of these, upload it to the thread if you can, that where I'm going to have all this stuff, and share it with others. Like someone can then just load this up, change their keys or buttons for what they use, and then that's it. It's ready to go. They just copy and paste to the file, and they're ready. They're ready for their setup. So it's pretty easy. Once you got it ready to go, it's easy to change up anything. So I hope that wasn't too long a process for you guys to take all this in. I know it's a lot, but the bottom line is you're filling in your commands and your parameters and everything that you need. It's all right here that you need to know as far as what you need to fill in here. And as far as what effect you want, that's going to be your triggers. And you'll look over here in these two guys. And that's it. So let's go. I hope that's helpful. I'm putting this out there for you guys to use on your own. This is not something that's going to be like a full-time support thing for me. I just created this for myself, and I wanted to show you guys how it works. And if you can get it to work for yourself, that's great. But if I could say one thing that is extremely important, know how to use Excel and make sure you copy the formulas here every time after you make any changes, just in case. And then that way your stuff down here should be good. All right. So good luck on that. And let's see if it works on our cap.
Guys, so we just got done creating our first DOFLinx SUP INI file using the DOFLinx SUP INI creator tool. And we're using this with DOFLinx effects. And I created one for Galaga as an example, and I copied it over to my cab. So let's just go over and try it out and see if it works. So, all right. Okay, Google, Popper Find Game, Galaga.
Popper Find Galaga.
All right, so we got a couple of them to choose, but this is the one we want right here. All right, so we're going to load her up and see what happens, guys. Look at that. It's working. So we have our startup effect already working. Here, let's just do that. There we go. All right, so you can see our startup effect is already working. We have the star field going when we first loaded it up. We'll just give it a moment here. All right, so what we did is we did the startup effects using the coin button, or we did things with the coin button, start button, and just the fire button. So we're going to push the coin button right now, and that's going to set off our beacon and turn off the MX LEDs and do another effect. So let's try that first. Yep. And sure enough, there you go. It turned off the lights, and then we got a new effect. So now, if we push the start button, what will happen is that will turn off, and then you'll see, I think you'll see begin on the back there, if I do remember correctly. So we'll do that. Look at that. She's working. Now, I'm one-handed here, but all you're going to see is the laser blast going up when I push the fire button. There you go, guys. Our first SUP INI creation. And it's working. Yay! And that's it, guys. I know it's may seem like a lot for something so small, but once you learn how to do it, it's actually quite quick after that. And then you can just duplicate this for other games if you want, and change up whatever effects you want. I mean, you could have like a fighting game with like, little shapes and effects on the back or stuff on the sides, whatever you guys want to do. You got tons of effects that you can try out. Use your imagination and try some cool stuff. So I hope that works out well for you guys. And give her a go and let me know how it works for you. See ya.